Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Shrimp Tank down here in Boca Raton, Florida, where street smarts and book smarts collide. If this is your first time tuning in, you could check all our 100+ episodes up on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or up on our website, the Boca Raton Shrimp Tank Podcast.com. Every week we come to you with the best and brightest entrepreneurs down here in South Florida, and we're all doing these cool fireside chats today with our in-person studio. Out of business, of course, with what's happening with COVID-19. We thought it would be a great idea to collaborate with 4 business owners at once. And this show is ran in collaboration with the FAU Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. So definitely check out their website. They have a lot of neat programs for entrepreneurs out there. My co-host today is Dr. Roland Kidwell. He's the director at the FAU Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. So to kick things off, Roland, anything we should be aware of that's happening at FAU right now?
Yeah, today we're having the Tech Runway pitch competition. Our associate Kevin Cox is over there as one of the judges, and we've had 20 businesses pitching virtually, of course, and their judges have been asking them questions. And to tell you the truth, I don't know exactly who is a front runner in this, but there'll be some decisions made on who will be receiving some seed money to go into the Tech Runway this coming year. So that's something that is happening synchronous with our podcast. We also are looking at how we're going to be handling our classes this summer, of course, online. And in the fall, trying to figure out how to proceed with some hybrid classes, some online classes, some face-to-face,
Sure.
Just to see what the situation is at that point. We're also looking at expanding our boot camps, doing our virtual boot camp, and we did have 75,000 people around the world take the hospitality certificate for free. We know a lot of people in the hospitality industry lost their jobs during this, and this was an opportunity for them to upgrade their skills. And this was streamed and provided online, and a lot of different countries, people tuned in and completed that program. And so we're hoping to duplicate that with some sort of a social entrepreneurship, social venture program online as well. So those are some of the things that are happening, Jason. Even though it's rather quiet and lonely over here, we're
I got to make you one of these t-shirts. Roland, look, I know you have your chain. I bought you the last time we did a big event with the shrimp with different diamonds, but how would you like one of these? Support small
that'd be
biz.
sweet, yeah. Is that a little shrimp on there next to
this is custom. Put a little shrimp on the end. This is a new attire for our fireside chats moving forward. So let's talk about this. You know, we have 4 amazing entrepreneurs on our show today, and they're all in South Florida. And to kick things off, you know, we're going to do a little elevator pitch. I want to hear from everyone about your business and keep it to about a minute so our audience kind of knows about what you guys have going on. And then we're going to jump into a deeper conversation. So Ellie, I'll start with you. Tell us about yourself as an entrepreneur and the type of business you run currently.
Yeah, so, you know, I come from an entrepreneurial family, but made a big switch to from New York to go to Columbia Business School, end up on Wall Street for a bunch of years to realize in the end that I'm actually an entrepreneur again. So I made the switch back to being an angel investor, not finding the satisfaction in just investing and being a bystander, and eventually to building UBQFIT. UBQFIT is a 2-sided marketplace platform. I always describe it, the elevator pitch is if Twitch meets Uber, Twitch the gaming platform meets Uber for fitness, you will have UBQFIT. So we have functions of Twitch, the social community components of it, some functions of Uber, which is the real-time booking of sessions with trainers with a click of a button that come together on this really heavy tech platform to make fitness accessible and available to the masses.
Sure, and well, perfect timing, of course. We're going to dive deeper during the show to ask more questions, but I'm sure great timing. Geoff Haynes, a past guest of the Shrimp Tank. I think your signature is right around here. It said, "Be the storm." Yeah. How important is that right now? So Geoff Haynes, tell us about what you do.
Well, serial entrepreneur, 3 successful exits. I currently run a company I started in 2012 that does solar, non-traditional solar applications for electric vehicles. And so I'm also a product developer. So I've developed some products for Thermo King, for Nike, and still really, really active in trying to launch new products. But my day-to-day behind the desk is with Raw Power Pro, the solar company.
Nice. And don't discount yourself. You were a TEDx Boca Raton speaker, right? 2018.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
My favorite speaker, all about innovation, if I recall, right? And what perfect timing right now is to reinvent, right, with what's happening.
Or, you know, the juxtaposition between big data and intuition also, which is something I hope we can kind of touch on a little bit today.
Absolutely. And then we got Dr. Sass, right? That's what you go by?
That's what I go by. So I was a fat emergency room doctor. I worked in Canada in emergency room, got into nutrition, eventually started my own nutrition company, developed a plant where we now make about 200 different products right here in South Florida. Anything from protein bars to supplements that are directed at healthy eating, healthy nutrition, weight loss, sport health, and also general foods right now. And lately we started doing some commodity trading with what's happening with the pandemic. So the company grew over the years, and I brought some medicine into it, and I'm amazed by all the people I hear here, what they do and how everything kind of intersects.
Sure. We're excited to have you guys on. This is going to be a cool panel today. And I've had your bars, Brian Rammel, on your team, dropped a bunch off during one of our podcast episodes. And I am addicted. They are great. Okay. Yeah. And then we got Prosperity Brewers, Dominick, you know.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Dominick, how's everything going on your end?
Well, you know, luckily enough, Palm Beach County announced phase 1 yesterday. So we're allowed to operate the tap room or the bar area inside the brewery where we manufacture the beer with a 25% capacity, like a lot of the restaurants around the county. So we're moving in the right direction. As everyone knows, no matter what industry you've been in or are in, the past 8 weeks have been super challenging. And we've continued to make beer. Because we don't have a large manufacturing facility, we're actually a little smaller than a microbrewery or what's called a nano brewery. We don't make bottles or cans. Everything we do is in the keg. So our biggest customers outside of the person that walks into the brewery to try a pint of beer is a local restaurant or bar or hotel. And because many of those have been shut down, we've been challenged with, a backup of production and no sales outlet. But we've been selling 32-ounce cans to go. We have one machine that singly cans 1 can at a time for takeaway. And we've been fortunate that we had that machine on hand available to make beer to go. But we've been open on Spanish River and Dixie Highway in Northeast Boca, right down the street from FAU, for about 2 years now. About 4 months ago, we opened up a craft beer and wine bar inside the Boca Town Center Mall. I believe that's where we first met Jason.
Yep.
And, that was going well until the mall was forced to shut down. But we're building our brand. It's all about the brand. It's all about getting the product out there. And as everybody knows, limited exposure in the current environment.
Roland, we have a brewery on. This must excite you.
I found somebody I can identify with after all this healthy stuff. Although beer is very healthy too. That should be noted. And Dominick, I'll see you on Friday about 5:30.
I'll be here.
Bring my crew over there.
Beer in hand.
We could start an initiative for FAU where they get a special discount for going to Prosperity Brewers. And we can make this a regular Friday occurrence.
This would be sweet. I subscribe to that. Yeah.
Consider it done.
I have to round up some people over here now, though, because there's not a whole lot of people in the office. They're all working at home.
Okay, so let's jump into some more detailed questions. I guess, Dr. Sass, I'm going to start with you. You know, on our Instagram feed, they said, what makes your product so different, right? There's so many protein bars on the market, and there's so many different brands entering that market. What makes you guys special?
So we're special because about 15 years ago, when I was well into this market, but I wasn't manufacturing yet, I was just a kind of a weight loss doctor, emergency room doctor. I realized there's a whole bunch of ingredients that the public doesn't know about. So for example, 15 years ago, there was a special fiber that had the effect of a regular fiber 8 to 9 times, meaning that if you took that fiber and you ate some sugar with it, your blood sugar wouldn't spike. It also had some weight loss benefits. So and there's a whole family of these ingredients. For example, a new one we just introduced is allulose, which is basically a natural sugar that has been used without increasing your sugar. So we have about 20 different of these, what they call functional ingredients, which the FDA recognizes and actually gives them what they call structure and function claims, meaning that they're not a drug and they're not a supplement. They're in this area in between where you can actually make a claim with them. So for example, fish oil and heart disease, the fiber I talked about, and sugar, allulose and sugar, and we use those ingredients in our products. So our products, and we make sure that our products taste really good. I don't like selling garbage. I'm a very finicky eater. My kids are. You know, if I'm on a diet, I don't want to eat garbage. I know that when I first trained as a doctor, I was told that people who are dieting, they're willing to eat cardboard to diet. But that's not actually true. Most public, you know, want to have a hamburger and a French fries and a hot dog. Well, I can't compete with that unless I make a really good protein bar that has some functional benefits. So our products are unique in that sense that you have a doctor and we have bakers and we have, SQF certified bakers who work with us as well that make the best products that have a function and a health benefit to them.
And how large of a company are you guys? You know, give us an idea on where you guys are currently.
We do about 12 to $15 million a year in sales.
Okay.
And we're growing very rapidly, and the whole market has changed. You know, everything is changing, and I'm so excited to hear about these apps that's an Uber with Twitch, because this is what the market is, and sales are going that way. Products are going to be attached to those types of apps, and we're doing a huge curbside push in the next couple of weeks where we believe, because things were moving online. I was selling at Costco, I was selling at Walmart. But in the last 3 years, I've really seen a big movement online. And Amazon, in my opinion, is at its infancy. In about 2 years, we're going to probably see Amazon double and double again.
Sure.
So I think sales that you're seeing on Amazon right now is probably 2 to 3% of what they're going to be, just because of the ability for them to deliver. And once they get the delivery down to 4 hours, they will really, brick and mortar stores are going to have a hard time.
Sure. And we had that episode 100 where Jan Bednar spoke a lot about that. He caters more to the small business owner that wants to take their product off Amazon. And we're seeing his extreme growth. He was a past student at the FAU Business School as well. He went through the Adams Center for Entrepreneurship and then also FAU Tech Runway, and has had an explosive run right now. And through this pandemic, he's actually seeing growth as well. Roland, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to ask Dr. Sass what the impact has been. Has this been good for business in terms of the internet-based business as well as selling to the stores, or people buying up protein bars in the past 2 months to hoard them against the future meat shortages and whatnot? Are you seeing a lot of movement there just since this has happened?
Yeah, your question is very smart, and you kind of thought about it. So we saw a big spike initially in stores, and when they bought out everything, we were part of that buy, and then we actually went below our normal sales. So in-store sales are probably 50% of what they used to be. Our online sales have almost doubled. Because I'm more in store than online right now, although my online is growing rapidly, I'm hurting. But my online sales, it's really made us refocus and then look at different avenues. And I believe that when we come out of this, the market is going to change. We're not going to have the same market that we had before. Stores that are in malls such as GNC and stuff, I don't know how they're going to survive. Even when the malls open, people may not want to go to them.
Sure.
So we are preparing for that with more online sales, curbside sales. We want to hook up with apps so people will know the product can be available to them through other means such as trainers and so on and so forth.
Sure.
And we are,
Dr. Sass.
Yeah, we are looking at other delivery methods because we believe that the food delivery, supplement delivery is going to change over the next couple of years, and people are going to buy them in different ways.
Dominic, you have a question? Or Ellie? Ellie is in the app world, so go ahead, Ellie.
Are you at a higher margin online? I would assume you are, right? Versus retail stores?
We're at a high margin just for the delivery. When I ship a truckload of product to Costco, my delivery costs are very low, and Costco passes that cost saving to the customer, but the customer has to get in the car, drive there, and pick up the product. So the only difference is really the delivery cost, the cost of getting the product to the customer right to the door. The other thing is that we have 200 SKUs. We only sell about 20 of them in store. All the other SKUs are only available online and only available through either our website, Amazon, Walmart.com, and those kind of places. So the affordability of our product is very, very high. And our product is delicious. The texture is incredible. I mean, we really have a different type of protein bar.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. I've had a decent amount of them when I skipped lunch, of course, and I have nothing else to eat. They're sitting in my drawer over here, and I grab one time to time. Dominick, I think you were about to ask a question as well.
I was just going to chime in and say that I got an email yesterday notifying me that the Town Center Mall at Boca is opening tomorrow.
Beautiful. I'm really happy to hear that, because I think
open is a different story from, going back to normalcy.
Well, Ellie, would you talk a little bit about this molding of these two, the Uber and the Twitch, and tell us about what your business does to differentiate?
Yeah, of course. So, UBQFIT, the idea of UBQFIT came from a personal need. I came from a background of very demanding careers, traveling, working 120-hour weeks when I was in investment banking, trading desks, things like that. But my passion has always been fitness, and fitness got completely set aside as a result of, the demand on the career. Fast forward to exiting that world and then having kids. I have a 3 and a 4-year-old. The demand on my schedule didn't really reduce. And now I am an entrepreneur and have 2 kids. So really the initial thought of a need in the marketplace was personal, and surveying the market and seeing that there are a lot of others that are in the same. I mean, I'm a mom. There are a lot of moms out there. I'm a businesswoman. There are a lot of businesswomen or men out there. There are a lot of traveling people that work, traveling professionals out there. So, and the Pelotons and the Mirrors, those big sort of fitness platforms have already proven the demand in the marketplace for at-home fitness. So making the connection between the trainer and trainee was a base case. And then we started to layer on other functions to distinguish ourselves from, the billions of fitness apps in the marketplace. So Twitch was, it was really interesting how Twitch created that market for gamers. Gaming market did not exist before Twitch. I don't know is everyone here familiar with Twitch? I'm not sure if you are. Twitch is a gaming platform born in 2012, sold to Amazon for close to $1 billion in 2016, now worth multi-billions. And the gaming platform as we know it today, you've heard of people gaming and making money from that experience, right? Like making a living from it. There's competitions, all kinds. Scholarships, school scholarships are being given out to gamers. Twitch was the start, was the platform that started that world. And it was all about creating the exposure between fans, for gamers and their fan base. And so that's the idea we've taken away from Twitch is a lot of these trainers have fan base. They have followers and fans and people that really admire them, that really want to learn from them, that want to follow their fitness progression in life or where they are or train with them. So creating that social accessibility where they can also monetize the connection versus just being on Instagram or just being on Facebook and just putting out live content that's free, that maybe they'll make some money when they have 100,000 or 1 million followers from brands, maybe not, maybe they'll never get there. So we actually took that and added sort of this Twitch social interaction and added the layer of being able to charge a little bit, microtransactions, 50 cents, $1 from that contingency of fan base, so they can kind of start to monetize that content that they're putting out. And then from just putting out free content, being able to monetize a small amount and then maybe even get one-on-one bookings and class bookings within the platform. And kind of build a larger revenue stream. So that's a Twitch component. The Uber component that I mentioned is being able to literally get on the app without having scheduled anything, pick the category of the workout that you're interested in, and we're growing in category. We had MMA fighters sign up last week. 2 of them signed up that teach, professional jiu-jitsu, boxing, MMA related workouts. We have 2-time gymnast medalists in gymnastics that's teaching gymnastic related trades and skills. So we're really growing in our categories. It's not just like, jumping jacks and push-ups. It's really kind of providing variety that people don't get on a regular basis unless they find a very specific gym or like a studio that they can access physically.
And how long have you been doing this for? And how did you start the company? Did you raise money or just you went all in on your own dollar?
Yeah, so ideation started about 2 years ago. I started building about 1.5 years. It's really big tech. It's taken a while to build. I have self-funded so far. I have one investor, small investment, but it's mostly just a friend. She really wanted to have something in the company. And that was the only reason I took it. I didn't have the need financially up to this point. I was fortunate to be able to take it to here, but we're starting around pretty much immediately with, with angels and maybe seed investors.
And then have you saw an increase recently? I'm assuming this is perfect timing. You're right. You built this product and now this need has come alive because all the gyms are shut down, of course, all across the United States. So how has the coronavirus impacted your app currently?
Yeah, so we have anywhere from 60 to 100 new signups a day. So definitely there has been, we're relatively new anyway. We only started up by invitation to Marketplace in November and opened it up broadly in February. So it was very, very new being open to the Marketplace without invitation. But even though it's like 60 to 100, depending on the day of new signups, there's a lot of engagement. We're starting to get bookings and classes and things like that, but it is relatively new.
Geoff Haynes, we could do workouts together now, my friend.
Zoom workouts.
Now we could go on this. We could do Zoom workouts and then FaceTime each other after the workout. What do you think?
That could replace your Friday evening drive home conversation.
Yeah,
I did have a question for Ellie though. I'm curious. How do you? You said, well, we had an MMA fighter kind of sign up, and now he's offering this information or class, I guess, right? But how do you standardize the content that's coming from like an MMA fighter, say from a cook, or no, not a cook, but maybe a different type of workout, that it still somehow has some tie back to the UBQFIT brand kind of?
UBQFIT has a brand, but we are a marketplace platform. We don't hire trainers, or we vet the trainers heavily. But it's not standardized by any means. Okay.
So then their formatting for how they want to teach MMA fighting could be any format that works for them, as opposed to, right? That's just what I was curious.
It's a social platform, right? Everyone gets a social profile. They get reviewed on their workouts by the trainee. It's like Facebook for one-on-one personal training. Obviously we're in there to control the content, to police it, to make sure nothing appropriate gets through, and we have provided a lot of tech-enabled functions for people to report on inappropriate, comment or blog or picture or video and things like that. But no one is our employee, so they. Okay,
right, I totally get it. So Jason, I guess naked squats are out of the question.
Guess I'm not making my profile up. That's what I would be doing.
Well, I'm going to move on to Dominick now and ask him a question about. You're the one person here who's really gearing up. I mean, today was the day that yesterday was the day Palm Beach County started to reopen. Describe the process. Describe, how you approached it when you heard this was happening, and then what have you been doing, and where do we get to the point where, you don't know necessarily the answer to this, but how are you anticipating getting to the point where things are relatively the way they were?
So, great question. For the past 6-7 weeks, all of my customers who've either been ordering online, which was a new phenomenon for us, we entered into the online marketplace space where we had the ability we offered the ability to our customers to do curbside pickup. They could order online, have it ready in advance. They wouldn't have to come into the building, into the tap room. They'd get a touch-free curbside delivery. Or they'd walk in if they chose, and they'd be able to purchase beer to go in those cans that I was telling you about, the crowlers. I can't tell you that my mind was at ease during this past 7 weeks, but I knew we were in a temporary situation. The past couple of days, since Friday's announcement that Palm Beach County would move to phase 1 open, I've been a little bit more challenged, trying to digest what the new normal is going to be, or I should say what the new temporary normal is going to be.
Yeah.
I think we all knew that the shutdown was going to have an end date, and then at one point, there would be a change where we'd have the ability to reopen either partially or fully. And I think right now the biggest concern that I have, and probably all of my colleagues, whether they're in the beer industry or just fellow entrepreneurs, when are we going to be able to go back to business as usual, legally or governmentally, as well as when will our customers and the consumer recognize that we're open for business as usual and feel comfortable coming back to visit us. With that said, we have no idea when phase 2 is going to hit or what phase 2 will look like. I can tell you that there's been a lot of work with customer perception, as well as with doing the right thing for ourselves, to protect your employees, to protect your staff, to protect the integrity of your brand, your business, and showing that you're keeping everything according to whatever the guidelines are. If it's social distancing through 6-foot table spacing, or through wearing masks, or through wearing gloves, or just sanitizing the tables after people come and go.
So let me ask you a question about that. How are your employees handling this, right? They obviously feel bad for your business. They have to, of course, feed their own families. How has, I guess, the morale been behind the scenes with employees that you help?
We've been open for about 2 years, and I've been fortunate to have a lot of employees continue to stay with us from the beginning since we've opened. Most of my bar staff, I probably have about 5 or 6 different bartenders. Many of them have full-time day jobs, or some of them are actually students. My 2 full-time employees that work in the sort of behind the scenes making the beer were both laid off. We haven't made beer in 7 weeks. And we're getting to the point now where we've been fortunate enough to have sold some beer to go. We're just starting to sell some beer in-house, and I'm anticipating 2 to 3 weeks out, we're going to need some beer. So we're going to have to produce some more. I think most of the employees that were laid off attempted to collect unemployment. I can't tell you that I've gotten confirmation that they've all been successful in approaching that, as well as with the stimulus checks. I've stayed in touch with most of them, but I haven't seen any of them in about 4 or 5 weeks. So I'm the one man holding down the fort for now.
Well, let's touch on that topic, brands doing the wrong thing. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, Geoff, because I think what we're seeing out there is a lot of big brands and medium-sized brands just turning the eye on their actual core clients. So, Geoff, what's your feeling about what's happening right now, where you've seen brands just literally kind of, skip out on small businesses or their customers during this time of need, how that might affect them in the future coming out of this? Because I don't think people forget, these type of incidents where they needed them most and these brands were not there for them. Tell us your opinion about this topic.
To some extent, I think I'd agree with you. Especially loyalty, right? Especially loyal clients, right? If you've had them 4 or 5, 6 years. Yeah, but you know what? As consumers, that is really how we dictate in an open market who's successful and who's not, right? So I do it. You and I have discussed it in the past. I do it all the time. I use my dollars to decide what companies, I think align with what I think, or at least, how you should treat people.
Sure.
It's nothing new either. When I was a kid, I lived down the Jersey Shore. And every summer, right, in winter, it'd be like 3,000 population. And every summer we'd have 30,000 because it was the last stop on the train out of Grand Central. And every summer you'd have to wait to get a table in a restaurant. And eventually, over time, those businesses all went out of business because they didn't realize that it's the local population that really it's your loyal customers that are driving your success, not your
clients are calling in, Geoff. They like your comments.
Yeah.
And I think, times have changed. I think in the past, there was no reviews on Yelp. There was no, bashing companies on the internet. Nowadays, consumers could go online, do a lot of bashing. And I think a lot of the next generation does identify with bigger brands today more than ever. So it will be very interesting, I think, coming out of this pandemic, what happens with some of these companies that really were not there for them, or maybe they're taking money from the payment protection plan, but then they're not doing the right thing with their employees, right? I think we're going to see a lot of that. Restaurants, it's confusing, of course, because it's one thing to get money, but then how do you really know what's going to happen in the next 8 weeks or 12 months if you can't get at full capacity, right? You can't really run a business, based on these high rents, with 25%, people coming into the restaurants, of course.
And the challenge for restaurants also is that I have a chance to make up lost revenue in my business, right? Because there is going to be pent up demand. I'm sure in the third and fourth quarter, I'm anticipating having, record demand because, I have a long history. I have a history from 2012. I have an idea what I sell in good years and bad years. But a restaurant, they're never going to make up for the money that they lost over the last 8 weeks. It's not like people are going to come and eat 3 times as much when they actually come back to the restaurant. So the restaurant model is, I think, is out of all of it, the most challenging.
Well, same with accommodations, travel, right?
Yeah, right, right.
Gyms, a lot of industries are impacted, and they're not going to be able to catch up. A lot of businesses are not going to be able to catch up with what they lost.
Yeah.
I know accommodation-based businesses, like all the Airbnb real estate holders, people that sort of like rent on those platforms, a lot of them are going, they have to consider some form of bankruptcy as a result of this, because they're high costs. They have real estate, they have mortgages, they have taxes, they have, common, maintenance costs. It's high cost. So losing revenue for, and then people are not booking into the future because they're still concerned how much longer this is going to continue. There's a lot of businesses that are, not going to recover from this.
Roland, you have a question for one of our guests?
Yeah, Geoff, you're a student of intuition in the the role of intuition, entrepreneurship.
Sure. Yeah.
What has been your reaction to intuiting or whatever this whole thing? Can anybody really think of anything like this happening and have it used intuition to try to be successful?
You mean another frame of reference for what we're going through right now? I'll tell you, if we want to talk about big data versus intuition, I mean, I think it's I don't want to be controversial, but I think it's fair to say that the models that we were using very early on in the process were often, in some cases, of magnitude of 5. And as we got more data, the second wave of forecasts in that data were also off by a magnitude of 2.5 to 3, right? So we based an entire response to a crisis on data that wound up not being accurate. And in many of the cases, in the larger models, they also factored in social distancing and some of those things, but we were still off and it was overshot. Now, for the health and safety of everybody, I'd rather work on a model that overshoots the fatality projections. Wow. However, if understanding the data that we have today in retrospect, I'm not sure that the national response was tempered, right? And I'm not a doctor, and I'm not claiming to know anything about anything. I just look at the data, and I've done this with all my businesses. I love data, but I also figure there has to be a way to internalize that data to make business decisions. And my takeaway right now is I think as a nation, we overreacted. And I think that a lot of it was fueled because it's so brand new for all of us. None of us have lived through pandemics before, right? I've been through earthquakes, hurricanes, pandemic. Holy moly.
I survived the Spanish flu.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, right. Okay.
The Hong Kong flu.
But I think the information was there because, for example, I'm an ER doctor. I used to be an ER doctor. I have a lot of ER doctors around the country still. And a lot of them in a lot of hospitals that I was calling them to, hey, how you doing? How are things going? They were telling me, Sass, We suit up every day, we get swabbed, and nobody shows up. And we don't know how much longer this is going to take. So I think, you know, we were hearing the drama that was going on in a lot of the New York hospitals, the hospitals that had the drama. But there was also a lot of hospitals around the country that had virtually no cases and shut down all their operations, shut down all their elective surgeries. So 50% reduction in visits to the ER, including, you know, critical visits, heart attacks, you know, embolus.
Yeah.
So I think that the evidence was there, but, you know, the media hype and the way and the politicians wanting to take the safest position possible, nobody came out and say, hey, this is something that it's not clear. It doesn't seem to be as bad as it is, because emergency room doctors that I spoke to, at least, were yelling out and saying, we're not seeing this scenario.
Right. But meanwhile, the hospital's losing all its revenue on elective surgery, and that's really what drives profitability in hospitals. So what this did is it served to take away. Now, again, I'm not a doctor, and I think I've been in a hospital one time to visit somebody.
You have the intuition of a doctor. I can see that.
Well, I just think that that common sense should dictate. And again, you know, when I talk to my friends about it, I mean, moving the government it's impossible because it's such a large enterprise with so many tendrils, really difficult. But still, I can't help but think when I looked at the data, and I'm like a data junkie, and I was looking at it from day one, I kept telling my wife, something here just doesn't, I don't know. It's just, if this was a business.
Hindsight is 2020. Like, when you were in that place where you were looking at that data, would you have wanted to be the person making the wrong decision?
No, right. Of course, it's difficult.
I mean, it's always hindsight, right?
I'm not being critical. I'm not being critical of the response that we did. I'm just thinking out loud in terms of how I look at the world, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, right. I think you have to err on the side of being cautious. Certainly, I agree with that 100%. But this is going to be a great case study somewhere down the road about. I don't think the United States has ever really, besides when Roland was in high school in 1917, 18. I don't think we've ever even had to deal with something close to this. I don't think any of the other viruses, the flu viruses, ever came. Although I don't know. Again, I'm not a doctor and I don't study, you know, medical history. But
we've definitely never had to wear masks.
Right. Well, as always, the opinions that I offer on this show do not reflect the official opinions or views of Florida Atlantic University. And I totally agree with you that this was a big overreaction from where I'm sitting, but I'm not a doctor either. But what concerns me, and you can chime in on this, and I'll say this, was how easily and quickly people were giving up their liberty in this country for what happened. And I know that's controversial, so I'm just going to throw that out there and ask what you think.
And it's
I'm going to shift some gears. I'm going to shift gears off of this topic and back to business. So we do have some questions from our Facebook Live audience. The first question comes from Michelle Hill. I wonder who that is. Random. It's so close to my name. Do you think that these changes in a lot of industries are the new norm? She wants to know. You know, of course, industries are shifting from going to the office, now working from home, doing more Zoom calls. So, you know, when things do get back to normal, is this really the new norm, do we think? Who wants to answer that question? Ellie, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, speaking from my own perspective, 100% there's a new norm for us. I probably will shift to working from home more frequently than I did before. I find that I'm extremely productive. The technology is there. I get to spend time with the kids. You know, when they come home from school, it's been a treat. That's been the silver lining. I don't know what's going on.
We got one more question from Facebook. We got Eddie Luigi asking, for those who work remote, how are you maintaining effective communication and collaboration with your team? Obviously, it's so different working in person, right? And you're always seeing people and you could kind of tell their facial expressions. I mean, now it's kind of funny, you know, you could kind of put a fake screen on these Zoom calls. I think Progressive, you know, just came up with an advertisement, which is, you know, really smart of them really quickly, but kind of go through like communication with your team. Maybe, you know, Prosperity Brewers, how are you guys communicating now that everyone's working from home? Dominick.
Yeah, I think I'm not the best person to answer that question since I've been in the building by myself for the past 7 weeks. Can I defer?
Okay, we're going
so
to Dr. Sass. Dr. Sass, you have.
Yeah, I actually have a good experience because I think I have two types of employees. I have production line employees. We have about 50 to 70 of them who have to be here. You know, I can't produce the product unless they're here. And then I have, you know, my marketing people, my IT people, my Amazon people who I send home and they worked out of the house. I can tell you that the people who walked out of the house, their productivity was 50% of what they were here. And
Wow.
I don't think they meant to do it. I think it was just, you know, the kids are in the room, they're trying to do something. We use Zoom. We have good communication. We use the Sana, which is a great task and project management software. But they told me, and I can tell you that many of them, after 2 weeks, begged to come back. They said, Sass, please, I want to come back. I want to work out of the office. And we gave them computers, they all have high-speed internet. So it wasn't a technical issue. I just think that people who are, sitting at a desk and your coworker that you're working on a project is in the next cubicle next to you, you just get things done a lot better. And I can tell you that my company is not going to move away to this, where people can walk out of the house, because I thought it was a temporary thing. They were not as effective as they could be. You're going to get the odd employee, the odd person who can probably do it. Somebody who is a driven and entrepreneur, will definitely be able to do it. You'll walk anywhere. You can go to the busiest train station. I used to study on the train and I was able to get it done. But somebody who's doing it as an 8-hour job and they want to go home and get a paycheck, their kids come over, they're going to play with their kids. They're not going to finish the project. And I have projects who I know how long they took. They took twice as long.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Roland, on your side, from an education standpoint, are you seeing students' grades go down because they're not really, watching the classes, or they're trying to cram for the final exam? What are you seeing on a student level with everyone studying from home?
A lot of it is going to depend upon how well the instructors have adapted their classes and how much experience they have in teaching online. And I've had variation even with my own daughter, where she's been taking some classes, University of Minnesota, and she came back, and some of the professors, they're just throwing a bunch of slides up online. They're not teaching, they're not engaging, they're not having a Zoom class or anything like that. They're not recording any lectures. So it's going to depend upon, I think, how well trained, which we have done a very good job here of training faculty to deal with this, and we're training them even more for the summer and beyond to be able to deliver at least a hybrid class. But it just depends upon that aspect, but also depends upon a lot of other factors, because some of the other factors, and it goes right down through the educational system. When you get down into the elementary and middle school, people don't have supportive home environments to be able to do this, and their families are working in some capacity, and they just don't have the bandwidth to take that on. But you also have situations where, in other cases, people do have the support to be able to do it, and that has a big impact as well. Some of our students, they don't necessarily have cameras on their computers. We have a way to try to get them into locations where they can look at the lectures and get online and get on the cameras, but they may not have that capacity to do that. So those are some of the factors that occur. Plus, you might have some students who may have tested positive for this, or they have family members, or what have you. So I don't know that their performance in general has gone down, but I think a lot of people have rallied about this to try to get through. And I do know I have a few more grade appeals perhaps than I might have in the past, but I think faculty have been factoring in some of the issues that have impacted students as well as them, as well as faculty, in putting together their classes. So that's kind of where I'm.
Plus, there's been a lot of great shows on Netflix. Let's be honest. We got Ozark, which people can't stop watching, and there's the new Michael Jordan series. So got a lot of FOMO going on that people don't want to, go to class. They want to, watch Netflix with all their other friends that they're living with. So let's switch gears.
Hang on,
Jeff, you got a question?
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking, 3 conversations of friends of mine, well-respected, right? These successful guys, that 3 of them have decided during this process that they're done being on a hamster wheel. They're tired of sitting on I-95 and, you know, getting up at 6 in the morning to get down, you know, Boca, Fort Lauderdale from North County. And this morning I had coffee at an appropriate social distance with a friend of mine who said to me, I'm done with it. I'm done with it. I've started to work out. He walks the beach. Well, he doesn't walk the beach, but he said he's been going on walks in the morning now. He never did that before. He said, I'm glad this came along because I didn't realize what I was missing out. It was get up, work, go home, eat dinner, watch television, go to sleep, get up, work, eat, you know.
It's not going to be for everyone, but there is definitely going to be more of it going forward.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know about, I mean, we're all entrepreneurs, so I'm sure at one point or another we had a little gap in our structure, right, for jobs or whatever. But I've never had 8 weeks in my life where I didn't have to be somewhere at some point in 8 weeks. And I don't think any of us any of us who's serious about having jobs, except for people that might be, you know, in and out of unemployment. I don't know anybody that's had this much time off, except for my European friends.
Well, you should come over here.
Well, it's funny to listen to people's excuses sometimes. You try to call someone now and they don't pick up and they give you, oh, I'm really busy. I'm like, really? I'm like, you're going to still go with that really busy line? I think it's time to transition to something different, you know? But let's switch gears. You know, I want each of you guys to ask each other some questions now, you know, come up with, you know, a question for one of the guests. So go ahead, Dominic.
I got one for Geoff that reflects back to what we were talking about earlier in the show. That friend or those friends of yours, business colleagues, whatever they were, they're part of the new norm. They're part of the people that are going to change the trend moving forward.
I hope so.
Is what's happening now going to continue to move forward? Is part of it going to stick? Yeah, absolutely. Is 10% of it or 30% of it going to stick? I don't think any of us have the answer, but there's going to be a significant percentage of the population that either works remotely or works out remotely or buys beer to go rather than in a glass to consume on premises. The diners, you know, I don't know how many different industries there are that are going to be affected by it, but I think everybody needs to prepare for a significant percentage to be different from what it was prior.
And I think it gives an opportunity for entrepreneurs to be the ones that will take advantage of whatever those social changes are. I mean, one of the things that's impressed me through all this is seeing all the innovation. Like when PPP became an issue, I can't tell you how many companies I saw like right out of the gate thinking, wow, that's super cool. You know, how innovative is that? Now everybody wants to be in PPP, and it's, you know, I mean, it's like everything else. It's almost a saturated market at this point. But early on in this thing, you got to see innovators really come out of the woods with all these different types of ideas, and so I think it's a good thing, and I agree with Dominic 100%.
Well,
I think
not just innovators either. I mean, in my industry, in the fitness industry, trainers are doing workouts on Zoom every day, you know, with their current clients or the clients they worked out with, the gyms. I mean, gyms are gonna really feel it because a lot of these trainers kind of built really personal relationship with a lot of these clients outside of the gym. And I think that's about to continue. Why not? It's more lucrative for them. They found a new way of providing their service and making money that they didn't have access to before. I wanted to ask a question about how you spoke about bars, you know, your product going virtual or going app-based. 100%, you know, that's another channel, and I'd love to talk to you more offline about that.
Absolutely, we can exchange information, and I think that that's the way to go, because I think that, you know, the trainers and have a lot of ability to know what kind of nutrition the clients need, and they're not aware of functional ingredients, and I think they make a big difference. And there's a monetization that can be done, because selling products on these apps is a big way in order to bring more money to everybody.
Yeah,
and deliver a better product.
Right.
Excuse
Ellie,
me.
were you talking about Dr. Sass's bars or my bars?
Dr. Sass.
That was an obvious question.
yeah.
I start selling shrimp on there as well, right, Geoff?
There we go. There we go.
Give it to the trainers.
I wanted to ask Geoff about this intuition and big data. because you keep saying intuition was, so you got to expand on this. I must have missed one of the other ones. So because I believe intuition is big data. We collect big data and that's intuition and we don't even know it. But
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to enlighten me. So
Yeah, no, I agree with that, right? If you look at the processing capabilities of the conscious mind versus the unconscious mind, they're not even close, right? We're talking about, right, factors of, 8 zeros, I think, somewhere around there. So yeah, so I agree with you. You're constantly picking up data that your conscious mind is just filtering out as non-essential. In fact, I'm not even sure that anything exists on that side of the room right now because it's not consciously in my mind. But we know that the body, the enteric nervous system, it basically makes your stomach its own entity, right? Its own intelligent entity. So I personally believe we're hardwired for it, and that it is sometimes not much more than a process of being able to access all this data that this incredible mind has taken in over the last 50 or so years. There's not an accident that people older tend to have better intuition than younger adults. That's a function probably of experience, right? Drawing on all of that stuff.
Hey,
But
leave our
I'll tell you,
generation alone, Jeff. Come on. Leave our generation alone.
Steve Jobs,
us youngsters.
Einstein, Tesla, some of the greatest minds in our societies have all said that they value intuition more than they do, intellect.
I kept reading that, and you see that Musk opened up the factory just on intuition because he knew that he's going to be able to get away with it. And
Yeah, I agree.
And I really like it, and it must have been a brilliant mind who made it. So.
And it's funny, many of the successful people I know, because I always ask them, to try to figure out how I can, do better, I guess. But almost all of them at some point wind up talking about this gut feeling, or I just had the feeling it was the right thing to do. And I'm like, that doesn't help me that you have great intuition. I mean, okay, leverage then. Use leverage, right? That's the second answer. Leverage or intuition. So I like intuition. But yeah, I mean, it's funny that nobody ever discusses it. And for a long time, it went into like this woo-woo area of science. Yeah, no. It's absolutely factual, physiological science. And you show me somebody that's changed the world, and I'll show you a quote from them that says that it was intuition.
Well, in my life, I've had periods where the data showed me to go one way and my gut showed me to go another way. And when I followed the data, I was wrong. My gut was a lot more right than my data, in hiring people and, business decisions. So, and they call the gut the second brain. But yeah, I agree with you, and I'm fascinated by that. So I'm going to look up your talk now on TED.
Yeah, check out my TED Talk. It was, when was it? It was October of 18. It's not even relevant anymore.
Well, before the world changed.
Yeah, right.
I don't think we understand the consequences of this thing. I think that the world may change a lot more than we think.
Yeah.
And we may end up, I'm worried about countries like India and China, countries where there's tremendous poverty, where there'll be violence, and that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Because I think that we are not really going to see the consequences until, July, August, September, and realize, when all these defaults begin, and I think there's going to be the real estate issue is going to be huge. Restaurants, gyms are not going to be able to pay the rent. It's just going to be a cycle. And I think we're heading, this may be worse than the Great Depression.
Am I the only one who believes that this will have a resurgence? Is everyone thinking that this is sort of going to end in
With the virus or the economy?
We're going to get September and there's going to be the next wave of this.
I think there will be a second wave, but the second wave can be bigger or smaller. Like just in in the Spanish flu, there was a second wave. But I don't think that the mortality rate of this virus so far has not been that high. So even if there's a second wave and it kills another 80 to 100,000 people.
It's the psychology behind the second wave.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, is the media, and that is the second wave going to shut us down again? I think the shutdown is almost worse than the disease. Look, we could have isolated, our elderly. We could have, shut them down. Like they did in Israel. If you look at the Israeli model, they really handled it well. They have the same population as New York, but they had, almost 100 times less deaths. And they isolated the elderly very quickly. They isolated some other people quickly. So we need to isolate the elderly. We need to isolate nursing homes. We need to actually shut them down because that's where the deaths are happening. Hospitals need to be designated COVID hospitals so that, we know that in this town, this is the hospital that COVID patients go to, and we don't shut all our other hospitals down. A lot more testing, as the people are walking in. And we can still function as a society without shutting down. We shut 20% of our society rather than 100% of the society. But you look at the Swedish model, they almost did, better than us in some ways, and they didn't shut down much. So I think my intuition tells me that there is a lot of data that wasn't presented to us, and there was a lot of panic thinking. And, these epidemiologists are designed to look at worst case scenario. And if they present the worst case scenario to you every day, and you make all your business decisions based on the worst case scenario, none of us would have companies. And I think that the government went with the worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario was there'll be 2 million dead. And they said, shut everything down. So I think if they do it on a second wave, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Yeah. That's going to be a really stupid move unless something changes and this virus mutates. This is an RNA virus that mutates very quickly, but generally they become less virulent. So, we'll have to see, but,
that sounds like a common sense approach to a very big problem.
Right.
And at the end of the day, any knee-jerk reaction to crisis is always the wrong reaction. Always. And history shows you that over and over and over again.
Yeah, I think that, what happened in Italy that has, a very poor healthcare system. I don't think it has a third world healthcare system. It's not even close to us. Really, we should have said, hey, this is a third world healthcare system. It's not, you can't compare to the US healthcare system. And the fact that they had so many deaths made us even panic more. And I think that, but doctors knew. I was speaking to doctors 6 weeks ago, and they knew. The ER doctors that I spoke to, they kind of said, this is not as bad as it seems, and I'm not worried. And a lot of them were telling me, we're not wearing masks anymore. We go home without a mask, we're done.
And I think with Italy also, I read, and I can't source it, and I wish I could, that Italy's population on average is older than all the other European countries around it also.
There's also cultural components in Italy, right? They're very, very much.
Yeah, very touchy, very feely there, yeah.
Well, before we
I thought she was talking about Italian hygiene there for a second.
No, the beeping. Yeah, no, not that.
Okay, who thinks Geoff Haynes should have a podcast of his own before we wrap today's episode up?
I do.
I think yes. See, Geoff, you got to start one. I've been pressuring Geoff the last year and a half to start his own show. So, Geoff, you got to do it. You got. Jeff, I
think you should do it live from Prosperity.
Yes, live. We just got you a podcast studio. I like it.
I just don't think I'd be good at it, honestly. I appreciate the vote of confidence, but I just don't. Okay,
to wrap today's episode up, I guess before we end,
how'd you get your haircut?
I want to talk about
Jason.
a silver lining. What? My haircut?
How'd you get a haircut?
I cut it myself.
Can't you tell?
Talking about Roland or me?
Yeah, I was talking
my own
to
hair.
To me?
These new traits that everyone's learned during these times, we're multifaceted.
Look, you cut holes in the back of your head. See?
I got to ask you, is the girl behind you?
No.
It looks like you. You have the same kind of muscles. So.
That is an amazing backdrop, though. What is that? A green screen you're in front of?
No, it's our Google App Store background.
That is so cool.
My team put it into the Zoom, and now I don't know how to get it off.
Yeah, that's really cool, though. That looks great. Great branding, right?
Yeah, they've
Dominick
done a
too.
good job of branding.
Well, today, let's wrap up our episode with something, silver lining that came out of everything going on. I know on my end, it's helping. I work with a lot of people in the financial service business between 50 and age 80. And for the first time, they're willing to work with me in other states. So a silver lining is, in the past, they always wanted to meet in person. So most of your clients have to be, when I was in New York, within an hour distance, or down here in Florida within an hour distance. And today I could jump on, a Zoom call with someone in California, go on Google, you could look at all, my background, of course, behind the scenes, and then have a Zoom call like we're doing now, and really have the trust and confidence to work with myself. So that's one silver lining that I've been through. There's obviously a lot more, But I guess, Dr. Sass, what is a silver lining? Keep it to about a minute. What's come out, of the situation.
The silver lining is that I think for the people who want to see the opportunity, there will be a lot of opportunity to make money, since this is a money show, in what's going to happen over the next 2 to 3 years. And if people are going to be able to take those opportunities, they can change their fortunes. Rich can become poor and poor can become rich. So I think that if people are going to take initiative, my father always told me it's better to be lucky than smart, but be smart and lucky. I think a lot of money could be made in the next couple of years in businesses that are going to come out of this, because things are going to change.
Dominick, you have a silver lining for us?
Yeah, I think the silver lining is that everybody's going to reevaluate their priorities. And I think that getting caught up on the hamster wheel has been a challenge for a lot of people that they didn't recognize. And I think that new values are going to allow people to thrive.
Geoff Haynes.
I think both of them said it perfect, I really do. There's nothing I could add to that. I think that what Dominick said is absolutely 100% right on.
Well, you shared a video with me, or audio, that you can now be a musician and not be in the same room, right? So there's your silver lining, right?
Yeah.
Ellie, what's your silver lining?
Yeah, for us, it's pretty clear. Besides personally, family, being closer to family and realizing the value of that, that nucleus is, you forget about it. I don't know why, but we do. We're human. We get too busy. But business-wise, we are at the, at the kind of forefront of this new technology of live stream, of being able to stay connected, of being able to do business without having to be physical. We started this 2 years ago. The value was already realized in our point of view, but now it's driven home. So that is a silver lining, the fact that we don't really have to validate it, it's there.
Sure. And Dr. Roland Kidwell, you have a background in family business, and talk about, I guess there's got to be a silver lining with all these family businesses who ignore succession planning, ignore a lot of things. Their family businesses are a lot of times old school with technology. They don't have CRMs. They go, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Seen a million times. So tell us maybe a silver lining on that aspect.
Well, I think you're right in that aspect. I haven't thought about that too much, but I do feel like what everyone has said so far kind of builds on it, from the opportunity to the re-evaluation of priorities. But I think too that there may be some more acceptance in a family business succession of the technology being brought from the younger generations to the older generations. Because I think you do see, and going back to what you said at the beginning, Jason, was this connection to people around the country, around the world, and basically learning how to do that and bridging that digital divide between the haves and have-nots, but also between the users and the non-users and those who are less comfortable with it. So bringing that back into family business, I think one of the key things in terms of the present ownership generation is resisting change that's brought by the younger generation. And I think part of the solution to that is a recognition by the current generation of the power of technology, the potential for technology to grow the family business and to provide a means for success that may get beyond what they were experiencing in the past. However, the flip side of it too is a lot of these family businesses are in small retail operations, whether they're restaurants or something else. And that is something that's not a silver lining, but that's something I think it's a concern point to think about going forward and the impact there that might take place.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us on our 5th Fireside Chat here on the Shrimp Tank. For our audience listening, you can check out all the past episodes on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or up on our website, the Boca Raton Shrimp Tank Podcast.com. And don't forget to support your small businesses. Salute over at Prosperity Brewers.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in a shrimp tank.